Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of the British Business Podcast. Thank you once again for attending our monthly session. Today I'm delighted to extend a warm Mayfair welcome to Paul Casey from PDC Scaffolding. I know we've got a fascinating journey ahead of us for the next 30-35 minutes, and I'd like to say, Paul, welcome, and I can't wait to start to open up and have a journey into your business and what it is that you've done and how you got there.
Okay. Well, where do you want me to start? Right at the beginning?
Yeah, that'd be a great place.
Yeah, so I'll go right back, shall I? So, because it gives you an idea of the people, the person that I am. So I was a little bit of a tearaway, I think, at school. I think I got expelled from school. I got kicked out of my house when I was like 15. And then I think you learn a hell of a lot from that age when you're that young and you've got to fend for yourself. I think that instills a lot into you as a person and makes you the person you are. So I learned a lot from it. And I was actually quite academic, but I never got the chance to prove that at that age. So I flitted around, did a lot of different jobs, ended up going off to Tenerife to live out there. And then I ended up moving into Essex, and then I played for a football team. And one of the guys at the football team, and I was looking for a job, and he said, somebody I know is looking for a labourer, scaffolding. And I was like, scaffolding? What is that? And he went, he said, you're young and fit. I was 23 then. And I thought, I'll do anything. I'll just go and do a job.
So you didn't know what scaffolding was at that time?
No, I didn't know what it was, let alone. And someone said, it's around the outside of the buildings. I went, oh, right, yeah, I know what that is. I've seen that before. I thought I'll give anything a go. I was keen to do any job. I've done lots of different ones in the past. So that's how I ended up getting into scaffolding all that time ago. And I was a labourer out on site, so I did 30 quid a day. There was no PPE them days. It was a pair of trainers, a pair of shorts, and that was it. You didn't even wear a t-shirt half the time. And running around on 2 scaffold boards. It was entertaining anyway, put it that way. And again, you learn a lot. So you get taught how to scaffold. You go up through the ranks as a scaffolder. And then there was a few times when I thought, do you know what? I want to get out of scaffolding. It's not me. Or you might have fallen out with somebody, or the boss said something you didn't like, so off you go to the next job. So I ended up going to work for another company, and we started doing these guardrail systems around the country.
We started doing what?
Guardrail systems, like they're freestanding guardrails sit on flat roofs. The company was Edgeguard. It was actually owned by Trad Scaffolding, which I'm sure a lot of people will have known of Trad Scaffolding. And I went and worked for them for about 4 years.
And these things stop people falling
off the edge, yeah.
Okay.
And they're freestanding, so you're not penetrating through roofs and stuff like that.
Okay.
So as soon as you do that, the guarantees have gone. So they come up with this system, and so I went and worked for them. So I did that for about 4 years, and then I worked closely with Hayden, who owned Trad, and he's got to where he got to by himself, and so I just sucked all the knowledge I could get out of him while I got the chance to get out of him. And then I went off and I flitted between scaffolding, running little scaffolding companies, then go scaffolding, then because people were promising. That was the problem for me. I didn't know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, what level I wanted to get to. Even then, all I knew is that I would go to the best place, who was offered the best money. If they're offering a good package, I'll go. I actually went back to Trad twice. I worked for him 3 times. I went back twice, but that was because he asked me to go back. So I believe that hopefully he's the reason he asked me, because I had something that he liked. And up until you have your own business, I don't think you realise what you can offer somebody in a business. So I never realised that when I was young. So I would just go, get a job, do my job, do it to the best of my ability. I always used to, and still do now. And not realising what I was actually giving that company. So I was running a couple of little small companies, and they would offer this and offer that, and go, come work for me, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. All right, lovely, I can work for you. Year 2 down the line, it's like, no, we can't actually do that, we can't give you that, we can't do this. You're like, well, what's the point of telling me all this stuff and then never delivering it? I delivered what I delivered, but no one was delivering things back. So I was going backwards and forwards like that for a good few years. And then I knew of quite a few people in the construction industry, obviously. And then somebody approached me and asked me if I wanted to set a scaffolding company up, with him being the investor and with my knowledge. And so we went and had a few meetings, and then we struck up a deal, and that's how I started PDC Scaffolding. And that was 6 years ago. So we're still quite a young company, but we are a lot different to a lot of the scaffolding companies. I'll get onto that bit for you in a minute.
I'm fascinated to learn how you met the investor, and at what point was the driving force behind. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners would because it's really important in the investor side, because it doesn't happen to a lot of businesses. But when that conversation happens, did you feel like you were driving that conversation, or was that the investor driving that conversation, or was it a bit of both?
So he's got a construction company. So it was he knew me because he used our scaffolding company. He was actually best mates with the guy that owned it. But the guy that owned it, after 10 years of doing it, he decided, I want to get out of the industry. So the idea was we was going to try and buy out him because he wanted to get out. And that was an easy setup. He obviously knew me through me working for them and knew my capabilities, and saw something in me that he liked. So that's why he approached me. And he said, why don't we set up something? And I said, well, let's sit down and have a chat. So that's how it started. And then I put a proposal together. And because I only worked for a couple, only run a few small companies, I had 2 proposals ready for him. One was for me to go out scaffolding and then try and build it up slowly. And the other one was, right, I don't scaffold, let's get a gang in, and we start it like this, and then we grow it, but faster. And he was like, get rid of that one, we'll have that one. I said, perfect. So we literally started off with a little bit of barren land. We had a portal cabin dropped off, and the day my corporation certificate come through, I just snapped my ankle in 2 places. And I was actually sitting in the hospital with my leg elevated, waiting to see this consultant to see whether I needed to put a plate in it or whether they could just put it in plaster. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my emails and stuff with all this morphine inside me, and my corporation certificate came through, and I was like, wow, I'm now just about to start this business, and this is how I'm starting it. But like they say, every cloud has a silver lining, and it gave me that 3 months of like literally lying down. I couldn't hardly do anything. It gave me that 3 months to get on my laptop and set all my documentation up, look at everything, do a lot of research, studying, which I never used to get the time for. And I like doing it, but it's hard to find the time. Obviously, when you're working full time, it's a hard thing to do. So that's how I developed all my paperwork systems and processes. I mean, I did bring them from other companies. Obviously, I'd learned a lot from along the way. So that was my silver lining. It slowed me down enough so I wouldn't even be tempted to go out scaffolding, because I couldn't. So I managed to get all our paperwork systems and processes into place, and it gave me that time to do it. So off we went. We got 1 lorry. I had 2 guys come and work for me, and then we had a 3rd one. And then that's how we started One Gang. And I remember, you go back to memories of when you first started something, and we started up, and we had this portal cabin, and I said to one of the guys who was working for me, I said, do us a favour, set a clipboard up for the lorry. I said, actually, go and put another one up there ready for the next one. And when I come back, he'd put 4 up there, and I went, 4 lorries? What are you doing? Why would you do that? And he went, well, you never know. So we started up, and at that time, anything in double figures was a big job for me. And we was used to doing houses.
What is that when you say double figures?
I say double figures. 10,000 or more was a big job for us. And then the first job I think we got was like 14,000. I was thinking, whoa, look at the size of this job.
Was that the value of the contract size?
Yes, yeah, the value of the contract,
okay.
Yeah. Because we used to do a lot of houses, but albeit through big contractors. And we did a lot for social housing. Okay. So it was repetitive work, and you're going doing either planned works where you're going along and they plan to do a lot of roofs or window changes and stuff like that, or you have reactive stuff, which is someone's got a leak, they report it, the council contacts the main contractor, they come to us and ask to put a scaffold up. So we was with big companies, but we just kept small. On the other when I was working for these other guys, so we've jumped onto these jobs, and that when we first started up. I think the first delivery of stuff come and got dropped off on the floor, and so then eventually we had enough to build a little rack, and we built a little rack. And we're only talking like it's less than 6 years ago. The day I got the corporation certificate was the 30th of September 2016. This is January now because I had 3 months of couldn't doing anything.
Sure.
We set the office up in January, and then now we're off and ready to go. So that's when I think our first job, because of operators licenses and stuff like that, started in February. So we lost sort of 5 months of the first year. So there was no
February
turnover.
2017.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's when we put our first job up, and from that till now is like chalk and cheese. So we've now progressed. Now we've got 10 office staff. We've got 32 scaffolders. We've just won our biggest job, where we started a couple of weeks ago for just under $1 million, a one-off job. We've got numerous amount of contracts where we're contracted to do all the scaffold between 5 and 10 years for some main contractors.
A contract that lasts that amount of
They've
time.
got the contract for that long. As long as we perform, we stay with them, because it's all done on a sort of schedule of rates. So we know what we're getting. We can plan things a lot better because we know what income's coming in. And then when all this Grenfell stuff happened, and obviously a big disaster like that, but it opened up a lot of avenues for a lot of other people with this cladding replacement, and it's been hard on a lot of people with finances and being able to sell the houses and properties and stuff. But it's made a massive influx in work. Obviously, it's not just that, but that's one of the big things. So if it's not, the smaller contractors can't do that work, and we can do it, because we're probably I'd say a medium-sized company, small to medium. So last year we turned over 3 million. So we went from that to that in just over 5 years. This year we probably do about 3.5, and next year we're planning to do 5.
Wow.
So yeah, we've progressed. I'm actually now working for a company bigger than what I've ever run before. and it's my company. And you have to learn lessons along the way. Luckily for me, I've had a lot of good advice. I've met a lot of people along the way, a lot of very important people in the industry, and a lot of them have guided me down the route. And some of them will come down to my office and spend half a day with me. They won't even want to. I'll try and pay them a consultancy fee or something for but no, not interested, Paul. I just want to help you, because I'm one of the nicer guys in the industry, I've been told by lots of people. So what goes around comes around. You're a nice person, nice things happen. So I've had a lot of good advice from a lot of good people, and it's helped me get to where we've got to now. And I've got a lot of good people that work for us, and we've managed to, cherry pick people that we want. And we my ethos for the business is, if you're not smiling when you come into work, and everyone's not smiling and having a laugh at work, then don't work here. Because I don't want unhappy people. Because I remember the days when I used to get up in the morning and think, oh my God, I'm going to go to work today. Do I really want to go to this job? And that's such a bad feeling. That every time I had a good job and I enjoyed it, I put a lot more effort into it. And it's not rocket science to work out. The happier people are, the more they want to work for you, and the more work they're actually doing for you. And you don't have to sort of ask them for favours, because they want to do the favours for you. But we do favours back, and that's how the world goes, isn't it? Surely.
Wow. You say that.
That's the idealistic world that we all want. Obviously, it doesn't always happen. But I want it to be the Google of the scaffolding world. I want people to want to come and work for us. We want to offer we probably pay a little bit more than most people pay. But because we want the best people, and it's getting harder and harder to find people, just because of the whole industry, the construction industry itself. To find qualified, skilled labour is so hard, because everyone's working, and I know what it was like myself when I was a scaffolder. If someone offers you another £10 or £20 a day, a lot of people used to jump ship. There's not much loyalty in our industry, unfortunately. But you always have a good core of people, and we've got a good core of people now. And then we add to it as we get busier. But we're literally turning jobs down at the moment because we're too busy, and we want to look after the people we've got. And too many people try and find new work when they're not concentrating on looking after the people they've already got.
They say in business that it's a huge risk to grow too quickly.
Yeah.
Because the void will happen and you'll collapse.
Yeah, definitely. We've just took on a new system scaffold. It's quite relatively new in this country. It's all over the world. There's a company called Perry, the Perry system. And we went round and looked at all the different systems out in the market, because we had a bit of this and we had a bit of that, and as we obtained it along the way. And I said, right, we need to concentrate on one system, so everything's conformed, like everything works together. So we're not ever trying to piece bits together. Oh, we put that system up there, that little bit of system on that job. So we went round and we had meetings of all the different people and their pricing. And I wasn't looking so much on the price side of things. Well, I didn't, because the company we went for were probably the dearest. But the backup that they give and the service they offer, and the credibility they've already got as a company, because they've been they're all over the world, and some of the jobs that they've done is unbelievable with this system, the scaffold. And they've took all the good points out of all the systems and made it into one. And when I looked at it, my contracts, operations manager we took our check manager with us, and we all was like, this is a great system. We have a great setup there. We took our clients there as well, and they've entertained us, and not as in taking us around, showing us the product, giving us the talks, giving us demonstrations. We've got all our guys are trained up to use the system, and it is a really good system. It took a little bit of wild time for us to all get used to it, because it's different. A scaffold, you can make it up as you go along. You have a back of a lorry, you got loads of scaffold tube, and you go, right, get me that, and they can bring it off, and you can put a fit in any part of that. But on a system, they're all set heights. So, and the way you set it out is completely different. So it did take us a little while to get to eradicate any little problems that we was getting with it. But that would be a system in general. It doesn't matter what system it was, you would have had the same thing. Because all of us had more knowledge on tube and fit and scaffold, just the general stuff that you see most of the time. But system, the great things about system scaffold is the longevity of it. All the boards are steel decks, so they last same time as tube, good 25 years. A timber board will last you 2 or 3 years. And people cut them down to fit round corners, and the waste that you get is unbelievable. But it's not just that. You got the fire risks of timber board still. So you get all these jobs, and they're doing all these recladding jobs, and they're wrapping the scaffolds round in fire retardant plastic sheeting around the outside with timber boards on the inside. So if you had a fire, you're like literally encapsulating it into one area, which will, to me, is making it worse. So we've now diversified and said, well, we're not going to do those jobs. We're not going to use timber boards on any of those jobs. And then we also invested into a composite board, which is 100%, well, 95% recycled material, and it's recyclable as well. So
and fire retardant.
It's got a fire rating. It's not a fire retardant.
Okay.
So it won't burn.
Sure.
It will melt and it will have flames to it, but it won't have the same effect as a timber board would. That will roar.
Yeah.
So we're not just sitting there thinking, because I'm not just saying this about all the small companies, but a lot of the bigger companies as well. They've got all their tube and fit, and they've had it for years, and they just keep churning it out, and it makes business sense to do that. But we're looking at the longevity of it, and we've gone out, and I don't know anybody else out there who's got it. We've actually got carbon neutral now. We've got a certificate come through the end of last year, so we've actually offset any carbon footprint that we've got. We've offset it at the moment, and we're looking to reduce it down to, we never get it down to zero, unfortunately, but we're changing all our fuel to biofuel. We're getting all electric done from solar panels. So we're thinking about the environment, and we're taking our company for the future. We're planning for the future, because it won't be long before governments and councils and so housing associations, big main contractors won't allow people to use other stuff.
They'll be wanting you to be compliant, and governance comes in all of those
and we'll all be ready for it. So I'm thinking ahead all the time for the business, and getting us to a level where hopefully we're going to just be that different to everybody else. I don't want to be a massive company where you've got to me, when you're a huge company, the bigger the company, the bigger the mouth you got to feed. And if you do have any problems along the way, which we had the dreaded COVID happen to everybody, and it sort of put some brakes on a lot of people. A lot of companies haven't lasted and survived, and it was horrible. And there's loads of different things that happen along the way, and you can't plan for them because you can't plan for anything like that because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you got to try and get yourself into a position and do different work for different types of companies in different parts of the construction industry. So we do a lot of our work, social housing stuff. So we work a lot for the councils and governments. We do a lot for some big refurb companies around London. So they will literally take the whole of their inside of the building down and leave the facade up at the front, and then they rebuild it. So we do a lot of them, but that's a lot of planning. You have a lot of different scaffolds going up inside, and they don't even know what they want at the start. You allow for the outside scaffold, and then you work with the guys and have your designers on site designing all different types of scaffolds. So we're trying to be different, and all of these people now that we've been working for since I started all repeatedly come back to us, and they give us more and more work because they're getting more and more work, and they don't even question our pricing anymore. They know what our prices are going to be. We give them all a schedule of rates of any extra stuff that they're going to have on site, and they've got that trust in us, and that's what I also would push and install it into our staff. Never ever try and pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Never tell them, be dishonest to anybody. Because as soon as you do that, your whole company's ethos and what you stand to believe just goes out the window, just from some silly
years
little
to
thing.
build a reputation, minutes to lose it.
Exactly. So, it's been a big learning curve for me to go from that to that along the way, and I'm still getting advice off people now, and I'll take advice every day of the week. If anybody ever wants to give it, if anybody out there wants to give me some more advice, I'll listen. And I don't think you can ever learn enough, can you? So, but we're trying to set ourselves for the future. It's not nothing I ever planned to do this. I never planned to have a scaffold company, but now I've got it. I'm looking how we can develop it and make it bigger and better, and we're in an industry that there's a lot of older school people that don't see it the same as us. When I talk to people, they're like, "You're not like the normal scaffolding company director or scaffolder that I've ever met before. You come across a lot different." I said, "I know," and then that's nothing wrong with how people are. It's just what people say, I'm a very friendly person, and I trust a lot of people. Sometimes I think I'm too trusting, but it's never backfired me yet. Touch wood.
I'm interested to hear more about the advice that you got. So people came in who were family friends. Were they
no
industry
so they're
people?
in the industry. So there was a national operations director for a tier 1 contractor. He used to come in once every sort of couple of months, and I'd get all my facts and figures with him, and we'd sit down, and he'd help me with my business plan. And he didn't help me write it. I wrote it, but I'd explain it, and I'm getting the advice and sort of confirmation that where we're going is right and what we're doing is right. And he would give me insights into what's coming up, as in we was on about the carbon footprint, and eventually councils won't give out any work unless you've got something in place to reduce it, at least get carbon neutral, and then hopefully try and get as close to the zero as you can. And that was from him. He told me that, and so we put that into place straight away.
When you were sat on your settee, having just done your ankle, foot, calf, whatever it was that you did that gave you that time, was there a business plan that you wrote because you were having an investor on, and you said that you had two? One was to do it slower because it was going to involve you on the tools. And secondly, there was this one where you're going to be on it, not working in it, and that would scale faster. Was there a business plan involved then? Or was it just
It was written down, but it wasn't written down to the level we've already got to. The 5-year plan originally was to try and get to sort of 1.5 to 2 million turnover. That was our original plan. I wanted to build the company up to sort of a £3 million company, and I'll never say an easy life because it's never going to be an easy life, but a small enough company to be personable and to be able to control easier. So you don't have to rely on too many people from wherever they come from within your business. You've got control of everything, and you can just oversee everything. And then what I wanted to do is then pass on responsibility to more and more people and offer them better packages to look after the business. So eventually I wanted to go back and semi-retire on a farm where I don't ever stop working, but I'd always be back in work. I'd always be attending meetings. I'd still be with our clients because I've got friendships with a lot of them now.
On it, not in it.
Yes, exactly. Right, yeah. So you can oversee it, and they do the day-to-day and the operation side and look after that. And then I get to oversee it, and we sit down every month with the directors, and we have a proper meeting. But I'm there for the weekly meetings on your teams now. It's so easy to work away.
Where did that sense of business planning come from? Because it's not every entrepreneur's, businessman's chosen start in a business to actually write a plan and stick to it and have a 5-year plan and all that sort of stuff. Because you get a lot of business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs winging it.
Yes. So it actually comes from, I think I was about 19. My dad had a window cleaning company, and I wanted to get an investment from the Prince's Trust. So this is years ago, and to set up the business, and I wanted to do a window cleaning round. So even back then, I was still looking at trying to have my own thing, my own business. And so to do that, I had to produce a business plan. And they give you all so I think I went to HSBC back then, and they used to get a pack and they used to have a little floppy disk in it, and you used to chuck it into the computer. Right, yeah. And it just asked you all the questions and guided you through it. So even back then, I looked at doing that sort of thing. And so when I've ever gone into a business and been in an office or a manager in a business, I've always understood the business plans, or how to create a business plan and what to do. But the hardest part is the cash flow forecast because you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how far you're going to get and when you're going to get there, but you have to have some plan in place. If you haven't got a plan in place, then you don't know where you're going. There's no direction. That's hard to keep on top of when you're trying to run the business and develop things. And, we still take on some new contractors, but we don't take on many anymore.
Is there a reason for that?
Because we've got enough work
because of
for the people that we've got.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're giving us more and more, and we don't want to let them down.
Sure.
Because they've stuck with us.
Yeah.
And we've worked with them. And we work for a lot of the big boys now. We work for Morgan Sindall's. We do a lot of Vistry, Vinches. There are probably 3 biggest clients, as in volume as well as the size of their business. But we don't ever forget our grassroots of the smaller companies that set up with us, and they do decent sized jobs, and we still do small jobs for some people, but that's not our market anymore. But if it's our contractors that we started off with, we don't want to let them down, because we don't want to let people down.
So vision
in
entrepreneurs is something that is for the average entrepreneur quite hard. And they'll grow, apparently, to do with research, a lot slower than the girls that have vision that is absolutely stapled in their brain. Is that the same with you, with the farm, in the future, going back, having a business that you can work on, letting the people come from below and come up to run that?
So that wasn't my vision up until I had this business. My vision was for the farm part of it. I always had it in my head. I don't know where it came from. And my dad was a herdsman, by the way. So I was brought up on a farm in the Cotswolds. So that's where the farming part comes. There's not much money in the farms, but I don't want to get a farm to try and build a business on a farm, because that I wouldn't know the first thing what I'm doing.
Sure.
But I've worked on lots of farms. My thought process is having livestock there and helping the less advantaged people or disability people come in, and having a farm opens free for them to come into, and all organised, so regular times they come in and do something like that, because putting something back is like, that means so much more the further you go down the line, and the past that you've had yourself, to give something back to other people.
Wow,
it's a lot better, isn't it?
I was going to ask you something about what does success look like for you. I think you've just answered it.
Yeah, it's not money, because the money I take out of my own business is quite minuscule. I pay people more than I pay myself, because I'm not in it to do the money.
Sure.
I'm in it because other people don't deliver what they say they're going to deliver. Like people that own businesses, they don't give people what they deserve for the work they put in. So I want to get the people that deserve it and look after them because they looked after me. If that makes sense. It's not all about making money. I'd rather pass it on to the rest of them and let everybody take a slice of the cherry. I literally will talk to everybody that works for me, the people in the yard. I treat everybody exactly the same throughout the whole of my my business. And I'll go out in the yard on a regular basis, have a chat with the boys, and they all appreciate it. We have poker night at in the office on once every sort of 4-6 weeks. I mean, it's just the boys. We don't or girls, but none of the girls actually play poker. But they're all offered, and we have a game, and it's just everyone gets together. We've done a lot of things. We've had a day at the yard, and we got everybody back, and we had a hog roast come in and put a hog roast. We had a golf simulator from somebody else came in, and all the boys come back early. Excuse me, and we did that. We've done a few things. I think we're looking at doing whitewater rafting soon with some of them, and it's all about the people, and you're nothing without them.
And so when the pandemic hit, and because you talk about people, when the pandemic hit, how did it hit the business?
So it didn't actually have much of an effect on our business.
Well, numbers tell me that it didn't, but
no. And the only reason is we was lucky enough to be in one of the trades that it wasn't affected so much, and it actually went the opposite because.
Wow.
And the reason being because a lot of our stuff's social housing. Now they can't work inside the houses to do anything inside houses, so they have to increase their revenue. The only way they can do is by external works. So we've sat with them, we've done our risk assessments and everything else, and put plans into place of how we would work. And our gangs stayed in their bubbles, and they loaded their own lorries when they come back. So everybody was working separately. So we come up with a plan and a way forward. And then their external works increased, which obviously made our scaffolding increase the volume that we was doing. So we were very fortunate and very lucky to be in that industry. I think we stopped for a week when it all sort of started.
A week?
Yeah. And then we had a couple of guys go back. There was a few people on furlough to start with where we didn't need them. So they went on furlough for probably 3 months maybe. And then we got them back one by one. I've had the first week off. I worked from home a little bit because my wife was very worried about me catching it because I've got asthma and I did have diabetes too, but I've actually got out of that now. I was got tested for that. So she was concerned, so she didn't want me going out. So I worked from home for a little while, but only probably about 3 weeks. And then we was back in it, and it didn't really have an effect. Well, it didn't have an effect on our turnover. We actually, we had a 50% increase in our turnover that 50% year. 50% increase. The first year, yeah.
Wow. And that was, you say, your industry, so pretty much across the board, scaffolding companies?
Yeah. I think a lot of scaffolding companies were okay with it because I'm not sure. It depends what marketplace you're in because
social housing.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. So that's why one of the reasons we're in social housing, because it is government funded money. Yeah. Well, we all pay our taxes and we all pay for the things to be done, and the pot's there. No one stops paying their council tax because there's a pandemic. No one could stop paying. So they still had their pot of money, then they had to spend their budgets and they had to get repairs done. They still have to look after everybody. They can't just ignore everybody and just not have any work done because there was emergency jobs.
Absolutely.
So, but the external stuff increased, so we was very fortunate on that basis.
You're not going to believe this, but we're on 32 minutes and we've got not a lot of time left. Is there anything that we've missed that you'd like to come to say? Things like, and it's important, your web address, telephone number, certainly mention the company again.
Yep. So the company's PDC Scaffolding. You'll find us on the website, and it's just www.pdcscaffoldingltd.co.uk, and all the numbers are on there, contact details. If anybody ever wants any advice, we're quite good in coming forward with advice for people, and we try and sit there and plan works out with people. So if anybody ever wants any advice, if anybody wants to chat, just give us a shout.
I think you've given our viewers and listeners out there loads of nuggets of inspiration and certainly some fascinating insights into what it's like to run a business. Interesting that your business increased during the pandemic, which is, and we've not had many people who've come in that have told us that. But thanks ever so much for coming in
No,
today,
you're welcome.
Paul.
I
It's
enjoyed it.
fantastic that you're able to give back in this form to people out there who are looking to either set up a business or continue their business in tough times. And for the British Business Podcast, until next time,